Hi. I'm so glad you're here. Let's see. I'm so glad you guys are able to make it.
Introducing the incredible new foot-long sidekick. Get one at Subway today.
Okay. If you guys are unaware, my name is Goddess Akasha, and today is our Primordial Council meeting. So today I will be addressing the people, okay? I'll be addressing the people. So come on in everyone. I want to make sure that I give you guys some time to come in. Hopefully I gave you all some time, enough pre-notice to know about this particular live. All right, so I'm going to get some people in here. Go ahead and share the live. Oh, I don't have any more water. Go ahead, share the live, make sure I have some more people coming in here because I want to be able to have some discussion. Okay, so this is in regards to my most recent post. Okay, talking to the people who are tired of their current reality, those who are tired of being so dependent, and those who actually realize that you have no control over your lives. Okay, so I want to be able to talk with you. Who's this? Hi, have you been in my live before? are you? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get started, and hopefully people come into the live as I am live, okay? So welcome to the Primordial Counsel. So this is the session where we get to discuss our community issues, our societal problems, and how we're going to fix them. And today I want to basically discuss how we can come together, okay? And when I say we, I'm talking about us melanated people, right? The descendants of the primordials, okay? One thing that I have been noticing is that we have an inability to come together and unite. And what I mean by that is there can be plenty of people who all agree that something is not right, who all agree that things shouldn't be this way, who all agree that our food should not have a wax coating on it just to make it shiny. We all agree that, we should not be making GMO fruits and all our fruits should have seeds in it. This is something we all agree on, right? But obviously, simply agreeing is not enough for us to come together and actually do something collectively about that. So we have to figure out how we're going to be able to get from the point of agreement, just in opinion and philosophy, to the point of actually collectively doing something. Like, how can we get to those 2 points? Because it seems as though there's a disconnect between what we agree upon and what we collectively do, or what we put our attention to, what we put our energy into, right? So I'm gonna just go with some things that I have been seeing. There's some things I wanted to address, right? Peace. There's some things I wanted to address, and it has to do with some of the people that's on this app, right? So on this particular app, what I have come across is within the conscious community, we have different people of different schools, right? Different walks of life. And what happens is they tend to get on and do a community build, which is great, right? But it should be great. It should be great. We should be able to get up, speak about knowledge, share what we know, what we don't know, and learn from each other, and also be able to agree, disagree, and still be able to speak to each other the next day. Now, the issue is while that happens, sometimes, or what I've noticed is that it turns into a sword fight. Because again, a lot of these conscious people are all men, so let's keep it real, right? It turns into a sword fight. A battle of the egos. And it's to the point where I personally can't even watch, because after a while what happens is it starts to just look catty. A battle of the egos. First of all, your ego shouldn't even be in it. It's not about who's smarter. It's not about who can obtain the most knowledge. But that's what it becomes. So what starts off as the ability to be able to build and find commonality ends up being well, I know better than you type of competition between the males. So I don't think they realize how actually unattractive that makes them look. Because what happens is we get sidetracked and distracted. Once again, if we're not distracted by reality TV, Love and Hip Hop, and things like that, we're not distracted by porn or any other things. We're distracted with the knowledge that we have. So the amount of awakening that we have really matters, because we can be on the first level of consciousness or the first level of awakening, and it shows because we gather all this information, and all it does is feed our ego, and then we're just stuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we hit our cap of enlightenment because we do not know how to go past that. We don't know how to be perpetual students, right? So while we're bickering and going back and forth about who knows more and this, that, we tend to lose sight of why we started talking to each other in the first place, right? So I'm just going to remind you, because honestly, I can't keep up with the drama. I can't keep up with it. Every time I turn around, it's something new. But just to remind you all, okay? We begin speaking to each other, right? Because there are things that we agree on, and we want to be able to find commonality so that we can collectively do something about the things that we agree upon, right? So if we all agree that we're all living on stolen land and paying taxes, paying mortgage, paying rent to an oppressive system that does not allow you to live and be free, right? Then what are we willing to do about that? You know what I'm saying? What are we really willing to do about that? We have to remember what we are coming together and talking for. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time, a waste of breath, and we're just sitting here sword fighting, because that's what the men are doing. You said, Lyrical Goddess says, I myself had to work through that and learn. You will always be a student. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's only one thing that we're actually dealing with. That's only one thing that we're dealing with where we're arguing with each other, or we're having a battle of the egos, right? That's only one thing that's happening. Now there's another aspect to where we can't seem to come together. Like, I'll just say this. There was an incident recently where I came across someone who, another goddess, right? I came across another goddess, and she identifies herself as a Satanist. So one of the things I wanted to do was get on a panel with her and speak with her and figure out what her ideology is and how she relates to the matriarchy, because she says she's a Satanist, but she also believes in the matriarchy, or the rise of the feminine. So I want us to understand how those two mix and mingle, or you know, where her mind is, so we can see what the commonality is, or what is it that she's missing, or if she is missing something, or maybe she has a perspective that I haven't considered yet. So I wanted to speak with her about that. The issue with that is we never got a chance to have that conversation, and I can't definitively tell you why, right? I can't definitively tell you what happened as to why we didn't have the conversation, to the point where she ended up blocking me. Did I say anything to her that was offensive? No. But and I can show you guys the interaction or text messages, but it was just a situation where people move funny. Like, there seems to not be any integrity in the community for some reason. So it was something as simple as setting a time, right? We set the time for the next day at 6 p.m. Actually, my mistake. Actually, let me back up. That was the that was the rescheduled time, right? The first scheduled time was it was at 6 the first day. Again, it was at 6 the first day. But I come online, I'm waiting, and she's not here. I'm hitting her up, texting her, she's not responding, right? It turns out that she was on live somewhere else with somebody else talking about whatever, right? I hit her up, which was like 2 hours later or whatever. I hit her up, while she's live, speak to her about what happened. She says that her trainer kept her at the gym longer than expected or whatever, and she didn't get a chance to get to me. So we rescheduled for the next day at 6 p.m. again. The very next day, she sets the time or puts out a flyer for 2 p.m. and then puts out another flyer for 3:30, which means if we're supposed to be speaking together or having this quote-unquote debate, which is what she called it, it was her idea. It was her idea. She sets the time to where it looks as though she wanted to begin the show before I got there, or make it seem as though I didn't show up the very next day. Because if we set it, and we set it on live while everyone was there listening and watching, right? So that's what we agreed to. We agreed to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we set that time, but yet the very next day, remind you, this is the rescheduled time. Rescheduled time for the following day. She sets it to 2. I text her and let her know that there's an error in the time in the event, because I'm thinking it's a mistake, an error. So I let her know. She said, oh no, it's okay. It's better for my followers or something like that. And I'm like, so what it's looking like is you're setting the time earlier, so it looks like I do not show up to the event, just as the previous day where you did not show up to the event for whatever reason, right? I give people the benefit of the doubt when it comes to these things, right? And when people are moving funny or they lack integrity, it really turns you off of trying to collaborate or speak to somebody. So I never got that chance to speak with her, to figure out what her ideology was, to figure out how we can work together to ultimately help raise the divine feminine and change the societal structure that we have. Now that I find to be very, very important, right? To the point where I don't really care what differences we really have. You know what I mean? Not necessarily. It's not that big of a deal. I just want to understand you. I'm not coming into any particular situation where I'm trying to convert you or change you or make you into my own image. Apologies. It's more of, I want to understand who you are, where you come from, how you came to look at life in the way that you do, and what do we have in common? What skills do you have? How can we come together and be able to do something that's beneficial for the paradigm shift that's happening? Okay? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So that's just one incident, right? And I wanted to speak with her because she started a 4B movement, right? And being that this is something that was prevalent in South Korea, is it North or South? I always forget. I think it's South Korea, and it had a major impact over there. It was something I wanted to discuss with her. You see how that could be beneficial? You understand what I'm saying? So while we sit here and figure out how we all can be a part of this particular mission, right? We all can be a part of this mission. I would like to see what everyone brings. What talent do you have? What skills do you have? You know what I mean? Let me see what this says. Like, what's the point of you suggesting a debate if you're intimidated by me and how you're going to block me? Right. Those kinds of women are low ego feeders for sure and don't want a real change. No, I understand that. I understand that, right? But you know what? It becomes a bigger problem then, right? It becomes a bigger problem because how can we get from what we say into what we do, right? Because people may not understand that, may not understand the reality of what it is that they speak. So if we're sitting here talking about, oh, F the patriarchy, we're dismantling it, we're coming into this new paradigm shift where we want to cultivate harmony and balance and equity for everybody. We want to be able to find how we can heal the planet, right? There is actionable things that has to happen. You know what I mean? There's actual things that has to happen. That means nobody can't have ego. Nobody. You can't have it, whether you are a man or a woman. So, and it frustrates me. It frustrates me, and this is why I had to come on and be able to address people. This is why I'm trying to get more people in here, because I want to be able to address the public and figure out what is the problem, right? What is the problem? Why is it that we are struggling? Why is it that we place our egos ahead of the mission? If the mission is so important, that means it's above you, it's above me, it's above any one individual person. But yet, we allow it to, you know what I mean? So, I'm just confused. I'm a little confused. So, and that's just from the men that I see, even on this app. I try my best to tune into their lives because I want to see what they're talking about. And the reason why I want to see what they're talking about is because every time we as a collective choose a leader, right? I want to be careful with this particular title because we choose our leaders. They don't just come out of nowhere, declare themselves a leader, and then boom, they are. No, it takes the people to give their power to one said person to make them a leader. So I was in a live where there was these men on a live, at least two that I know of, and this goddess came on, a divine feminine, I can't remember which, but I remember it was a feminine voice. She said, oh, I look up to you guys are the leaders of today. And I was confused at her statement because I wanted to know how she drew that conclusion. What actions did she see that made her think that they were leaders of today? Because what I see is they go live every day. That to me is not a good enough qualifier for what a leader is. A person having confidence or being able to come online and be able to talk to people and spread the knowledge that they have does not make them a leader for me. So because she said that, what's happening is there's people in the audience, and the way that the brain works, right? The brain inherently finds commonality in all information. That's how we decide whether it's digestible or not. It has to be some sort of commonality in the statement, right? So being that our people are seeking to be saved, right, whether it's through Christ or not, right, because our people are seeking to be saved, we have this tendency to want to appoint a leader because we want someone to do all the heavy lifting for us. That's our issue, right? We want someone to be able to do all the heavy lifting for us. So here we are in this particular live where there's an audience that's listening to what she's saying, and she says, you guys are the leaders of today. And no one in the audience disagreed with her, right? Fine. People like who they like. That's understandable. But now that she has said this, and there has been obviously a plethora of people who agree, now my eyes are on these people. I want to see what they're doing. What did she see? What are more people saying? Because obviously she said something people agree with. So what is everyone else seeing that I'm not seeing? So now I'm watching you day to day. When you go live, I'm trying my best to tune in every time to see what it is you're talking about, what you're doing, right? And my assessment hasn't changed. They don't do nothing but get on live every day and, talk they ish, which is cute. I get that. It's nice. It's beautiful. But those particular people end up in those ego sword fights. You know what this is? Sword fighting, right? If they was in person, do you know what that sword fighting would look like? Yeah. So let's get it together. That's what the battling egos is, right? I don't see any actionable, anything that they're doing that's action. Peace, peace, peace. So good to see you. So my issue is, how do we get to a point where we're not utilizing information as a way to feed our ego, to now we are just arguing with each other and calling it a build, right? How do we, like, I can just tell you another situation. Just recently, I come across, or someone reacts to, so I don't know if you guys are aware of goddess Ayana, right? She's the one who speaks about polygyny, right? So she speaks about polygyny, which is fine. On her post, this specific post was a black post, and she said, "I cannot wait until black men rule the world." That's what she says. I am in her comments to ask, are you sure you meant black men or black women? This is my question. Of course, I'm going to get, discourse and people disagreeing and all other stuff. And her response to me was, because at the end of the day, we're going to be ruling alongside them, something of that nature. And I'm like, okay, well, if that is your logic, then would it really matter who you say is ruling the world or not? You know what I mean? Wouldn't the statement still be the same if you were to say, I can't wait for black women to rule the world, and it would still hold true that the men will be right beside us, right? So, you know what I mean? Like, I can tell when people are using word salad with me. I understand that. It's cute. It sounds cute, but the truth of the matter is, you really do want black men to rule the world. It's not so much that you just saying it for all of us to get. No. And people were telling me that, right? Thank you so much. So now what I'm getting from that is people who agree, people who disagree, but someone was now in my inbox now because of that particular interaction on her page. Now someone's on my inbox. Their page, to me, looks like they're teaching about the black woman being God. So now I'm like, yeah, great. Now I come across someone who is aligned mentally. So I thought, right? So now we're in the inbox. I'm like, oh great, this is my page, but I want to show you my teaching page. So now I bring them over here to Yanism because I was interacting on my personal page. So they come over here, they like up all my stuff, and then I'm like, great. The very next day, they message me and say, oh, do you want to collab? I say yes. And then they're like, do you hate men? And it doesn't seem like it, and the energy is not reciprocated. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Whoa. Calm down. What are you talking about? What happened? I just came across you yesterday. And the issue, which the person behind the page responded, because again, this particular page did not have a face on it. It really was just information, hieroglyphs, things like that, pictures. But I didn't see a person, you know what I mean? So I didn't know who was behind the page. We didn't get a chance to have a talk, set a meeting, nothing of the nature, nothing of the like. So I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? You asked me if I wanted to collab. I said yes. And then it's an issue. What's the issue? Tell me what's the issue. They respond with a voice note and basically say, well, I was expecting, some, like, I'm anxious. I was expecting you to be anxious. Like, oh, you didn't look at my page and, the energy is not reciprocated. I'm like, okay, well, the issue is you came with an expectation. You never come into anywhere with expectation on how somebody should be responding to you. It's not like we set a date and time and I did not show up. Then you would have every right to be upset or to expect me to do something because we just previously discussed me showing up and, being available to talk. But that did not happen. I just came across your page yesterday. One thing I'm not going to do is express to you and relay my whole agenda of everything that I did today to let you know why I didn't hit you up sooner or something of that. Like, I don't know what like where we got to this point, but you never want to have an expectation on somebody that you have yet to meet. Like, and I say have yet to meet because we haven't even had any introductions yet. There was no introduction. I have no idea who I'm talking to. I don't even know your name. You know what I mean? So this is the issue that just happened just recently. And this is also another page that supposedly teaches that the black woman is God and we're dismantling the patriarchy and this, that. Everything sounds good. It sounds great. We have the great ability to type and post and da. But when it comes to actually doing something and coming, into contact with people, interacting with people, we don't know how to communicate, right? So I was just saying to this particular individual, you're not supposed to have expectations. And, if you would like to set a time for us to talk and get acquainted, get to know each other, that way I can figure out what it is you actually do, what it is that you actually provide for the community, and then we can see how we can come together and what we can collab and do. Then we can still do that. His response was, well, you ain't gonna tell me that I'm not supposed to have an expectation. And I didn't even listen to all 10 voice notes. I'm just going to keep it real with you. I'm not listening to all that. The energy, the first 10 seconds of energy in that first note let me know everything else. And I'm not sitting here listening to nobody's rant. You are not. My thing is, I'm gonna just keep it real with y'all, right? If we are talking about the black woman is God, right? This is my issue. This is the reason why I started teaching in the first place, because everybody who taught the black woman was God was a man. Let's keep it real. All the way down to John Henry Clark, Benya Cannon. These are elders that people assign so much reverence, right? And I appreciate what they did in the time that they were doing it, because they had to do it during a time when there really wasn't no internet. Let's keep it real. I grew up during the time when the internet came on, so I know they didn't have no internet. So they did it with the minimal understanding that they had, and I appreciate what they did. After them, the wave after them was who? Now we get the Amun-Ra squad with General Seti and Young Pharaoh, and then we have the Nature Boys. Then we have the Natural Tahooties. We have all these people that's in the conscious community who supposedly teaching a black woman is God. But all of them, please keep in mind, they're all Y chromosomal beings. They're all male. Right? Nothing wrong with that. But there's something inherently wrong with our men preaching and teaching something they can't live out in reality. You can't sit here and tell me that you understand that the black woman is the mother of civilization, that she is divine. Her being itself is divine. But you are incapable of receiving constructive criticism. You can't tell me that. That's funny to me. You know what I mean? Because what I gave this particular individual was a quick lesson because he needed the lesson, right? Sometimes we need lessons. And even from that lesson, I was not opposed to continuing to speak to this particular person, but this person was turned off because I gave them the lesson. They had an expectation for how I'm supposed to act. And let me tell you something. I don't know what's been going on with the teachings up until now, but obviously the teachings has not changed how our men interacts with the black woman. It has not changed. The percentage of murders that's happening, you know what I'm saying, between the black man and the black woman, it hasn't gone down. Domestic violence rates hasn't gone down. The amount of STDs that's being passed because of men that's on the DO and can't and can't be truthful about who he is has not gone down. Nothing has changed from this teaching about the black woman being God. So I don't understand why, I don't understand what it is. Right, exactly. It's their unhealthy ego, right? As you said, it's their unhealthy ego that can't take constructive criticism. Now, but my question is, right? How do we fix this particular problem, right? Because if the ego is the obstacle, right, that is preventing us from being able to come together as a collective and do something actionable that's going to get us out of this state of dependence, then what do we do to fix it? That's my question for everybody. What do we do to fix this ego? Because what happens is we come across people who have this unhealthy ego, right? We may have a discord, an issue, an unpleasant interaction, and then what we do, we just separate ourselves from them. But guess what? That's the very definition of being divided, and that's the reason why we're conquered, right? How can we still come together, right? Like, what's going to get our men and women, because I'm not going to say one suffers from the ego more than the other, but how can we get our men and our women in a place where they can let their guard down, put their ego down in certain places? And I'm not saying that you can't have your ego, do what you do, but there's a time and a place for everything. There's a time and a place for everything. So that means, at the very least, I feel like your ego should be down when you're talking to a goddess. At the very least. That's the least, right? Especially somebody who's coming out here and teaching and trying to get people to come together. If she's coming to you with something and you don't like what she's saying, then you need to not respond, right? Don't respond right away. Take it in. Take some time to think it over before you respond. And figure out, is she saying something to me to hurt me? Is she saying something to me that devalues who I am or my contributions? Right? Start thinking about these things, because you can be taking offense to something that could be very helpful to you, like homeboy yesterday. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to figure out, am I wrong in this situation? You have to not be afraid to be wrong in a situation. And there has to be a level of respect for the black woman. I can't tell you how disappointing it is that we have had this teaching for over a decade, yet the respect for the black woman has not risen at all. Nothing has changed. Nothing has happened. This is the reason why I feel like it needs to be taught by a woman. It does not need to be taught by a man, because for some reason they cannot live their own teachings. They can't live their own teachings. I don't know what the problem is, but there has to be an environment in which the man submits himself to, so that he can actually change the wiring in his brain and go through a process of deprogramming. Okay? So, I am looking into doing that particular boot camp situation, but I do not have the resources to do that right now today. But what I'll do is I will suggest some particular retreats for the men to go to that can help them with their divine masculinity. Okay? Now, I know that the ego will stop them from accepting help, but this is where I speak to my goddesses. What can we do? What is the next step? Because that right there is the reason why we're always going to be in this particular position. We're never going to be in a place where we can provide our own food for ourselves. We're never going to be in a place where we don't have to pay for shelter. We're never going to be in a place where we have a thriving community, because we have people who cannot get over their ego. What can we do? I need ideas. I need y'all to come up with some ideas. Help me out. All the goddesses, help me out. Give me some ideas. What do you think we can do to get certain people to lay down their ego? That is very true. It is what we allow. So that's why I'm at this point, trying to make sure it's not something that's tolerated anymore, right? It's not tolerated. So that means we, as the feminine, have to stop being so hung up on, trying to place our self-worth in a man. That whole, wanting to be married above all else, like without identifying who we are first. No, come up, Alicia. If you're able to come up, I want to hear your thoughts on how you feel we can realistically stop allowing, right? Because the part of stop allowing, what we have been doing is separating ourselves from said person. But that keeps us divided. It does. Every time we end up in a particular predicament, we separate. And I'm not the type where we have to get to a point as a collective where we can effectively disagree and still move forward on the mission. That's what I'm trying to get to. We have to be able to disagree on something, not see eye to eye on one particular thing, but if it has nothing to do with the whole mission, right, then we have to be able to move forward. And I'm able to do that. Like, you see, homeboy had a particular expectation on how I should move and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, no, that's not how things go. This is what we can do. And I was able to move forward even though that approach was distasteful for me. You know what I mean? We have to be able to get to a point where we're able to do that. A lot more people are able to do that. Right, like you said, find men who are aligned, right? The thing with that is, while yes, I agree with you, the more we continue to look for people who are aligned is the more we come across people who are struggling, right? Because like I said, these people all portray to believe in the same thing. So we appear to be aligned at first. We all understand that we want to dismantle the patriarchy. Everybody who wants to dismantle the patriarchy, everybody who wants to experience freedom and independence from this particular societal system, that's what we agree on. So we are aligned in that way. How do we get all of those people, right? All of these people who agree on that. How do we get all of these particular people to unite despite slight or minor differences, despite the ego that we have, right? So we have to figure out, because it can't be, because I'm gonna tell you right now, right? If we continue to divide ourselves based on these minor attributes, simple things like, oh, this person had an ego today, or they let their ego get in the way of their greatness, what's going to happen is we're going to have all these tiny little splinter groups. And tiny little splinter groups does not make of a strong nation. Do we understand that? It does not make a strong nation. So we're just going to have small little splinter groups. And what happens with those splinter groups is they get labeled as cults. Understand that. Every time there are people who are of a particular level of consciousness and they want to come together and create community, they get labeled as cults. I was just watching this video today, a news video. I don't know if it was Fox or CNN, one of them. And they were talking about Rashad Jamal, right? Again, I don't know much information about him because I didn't hear about him until he was locked up. All I started seeing was free Rashad Jamal, free Rashad Jamal. So I went to go look and see who he was because I wasn't privy to who he was, right? So now I'm looking into who he is, and they're doing a video about who he is, obviously making him look bad. Great, I understand that, I get it. But one thing that I got from that video was how they define what a cult is. And basically, the quote-unquote cult expert, Mr. Ross, whatever his name is, he basically categorized cults as people who decide that they want to live off-grid. So living off-grid is now something that is punishable by law. It's not punishable by law, but it was a particular factor that they had in common with many other splinter groups who decided to decide that they want to go against the societal standard. Because we all disagree with how society is being run, the structure that it's in, we're going to want to go off grid. We're going to want to be able to have our own food. We're going to want to be able to be connected to nature. We're going to want to be able to do these things. But now they're actually adding this particular element into what they define as a cult. So now they're able to look for other things to be able to lock everybody up. Ninja Boy, and he was pushing the message that God is a woman. Yes. So look, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So we have to do something about this. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of every time, we try to do something, we're getting shut down for our beliefs. But yet this is supposed to be the country where you can have you should have freedom of religious belief. You should have freedom of speech. You should have freedom of this particular kind of thing. But yet when it comes down to assessing who you are, you get labeled as a cult. And not only that, it gives them ammunition to start demonizing what it is that you do and demonizing your own beliefs. There's nothing wrong with his beliefs of going into nature. There's nothing wrong with people living in tents and camping out in the forest. There's nothing wrong with that. But yet it's seen as something that people can most definitely degrade you about. Same thing with Carbonation, who wanted to live out in nature, in the jungles of Central America. There's nothing wrong with that. But yet this is what the cult expert decided to say was abnormal. They think it's crazy. Why do you think it's crazy for people to want to go off grid? That to me is insane. You understand what I'm saying? That to me is insane. But this is what I'm trying to show you, right? The issue is we tend to give our power to all these male leaders, and they're obviously doing something wrong. They're doing something wrong to the point where they're not leading appropriately. I could sit here and go through and tell you what each of them did wrong, but I'm not going to do that. I'll get back to the cases later. I'm going to go over Rashad Jamal's case, but what I would like is for someone who knew him well to come and speak to me, because I wasn't around to see. I didn't see his stuff. Okay, so Lualati, you said your country's a free country, but witches here are demonized by media. Exactly. Ninja Boy, it's just that we have to realize that the elites are just in love with our lower selves. Okay, but what I'm trying to get us to understand here is branching off into tiny splinter groups is the wrong thing to do. Even if, like, let me tell y'all, this is what we need to do. I'm gonna tell y'all what we need to do, but because it's so simple, but we have to be able to do it, right? There are going to be a select few that align with us in every way, right? But there is a larger majority that align with us in small ways. So what we have to do is we have to be able to have our small tribes, right? We have to be able to have our tribes, but also we have to be able to create a coalition between the tribes. Do you understand what I'm saying? between the tribes, there should be a coalition. There should be a representative for each tribe that can come together at a round table and be able to discuss what we can do as a nation. Because I'm tired of us trying to, trying to do everything with our own little baby group. 5, 6, 20 people is not going to change society. It's not. It's not going to change the world that we live in. It's not going to make this world a better world for the children that we're having. Because let's keep it real. We're not going to stop mating, right? We're not going to stop doing that. We're not going to stop bumping and grinding. So if we're doing that, that means we're bringing in children in this world. And if we're doing that, we have to take some responsibility for the world we bring them into. So that means letting our egos down and being able to work with people, create a coalition, create a system where we can come together, even if in our own, everybody's not going to be able to be in our individual tribe. No. We have to understand that we're going to have other tribes. We have to understand what a tribal system is. We have to be able to do that. And we need to stop putting men in charge. I'm going to just keep it real with y'all. We have to stop doing that. Stop doing that, because they're more susceptible to allowing the information to give them such an ego boost to where they can't function properly. I'm just being honest with y'all. And this is what I'm seeing. And the woman who accused him of touching her child has falsely accused the men like that more than once. Okay, and that's another thing we have to deal with. Let me tell y'all something. When it comes to leadership, right? This is, if you do not believe me or take anything else I say, right? If we appoint a woman as a leader, there's no way that there's going to be somebody coming saying that she molested them.
I can show you how easy it is.
I'm just keeping it real with y'all. How many women you know have a record, is a registered sex offender? Let's keep it real. How many women are registered sex offenders that you know personally? I'm gonna keep it real with y'all, okay? When it comes to these kind of things, right? The woman does not have a phallus, right? We need to understand what the phallus is. We have to really understand masculine and feminine energy, the energy of it, right? So masculine energy is an actionable energy. It's the pursuant, right? It's the doer, okay? The feminine energy is the attractive energy. Attract, right? She receives. She creates abundance, right? So while this is happening, this is a push and pull type of situation, right? So when this particular push, because that's the masculine is the push, the feminine is the pull. You understand what I'm saying? So when it comes to the assault, the man is always going to be the aggressor because he has the phallus. Do we understand that? So there's going to be, I don't know if you guys ever looked up the stat where we talk about who does most of the violent crimes, who does most of the SAing, right? We have to start being realistic, and we have to stop catering to people's egos. We have to stop doing that. We have to stop worrying about hurting people's feelings. I'm probably hurting every man's feelings right now, but they're not meant to be in these particular leadership positions. They're not meant to lead a spiritual group. That's not your area of expertise. That's not your area of expertise. You're not supposed to be big homie shaman. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. If you have the strength, if your body is built a certain way, you're supposed to be a warrior. You're supposed to be doing things. You're supposed to be outdoing. You're supposed to be building. That's what you're supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to be trying to be the leader of a spiritual community. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. So we as people have to stop assigning them leadership positions. We have to stop doing that. You've always known this truth. No, right. So I'm so glad you understand this. So my thing is, there are plenty of people who feel the same way. There are plenty of people who feel like, oh, this is the truth I've always felt. How do I get these particular people, right, who always understood this truth, that leadership, especially spiritual leadership, should be by the one who's most connected to source? That's what it is. Come on. I know I'm going to be hurting people's feelings. And I also know that my tone is not becoming of the soft and feminine. I get that. And I understand. You know, it really bothers me that women, right, are still living in accordance to the liking of what a man says. We have to stop doing that. We have to stop doing that. We have to come into our divinity, right? We have to come into our divinity. If we're struggling, we need to find big sister. We have to start doing that. The men, you have to let your egos bring it down a notch, couple notches, because y'all are struggling. And what's happening is you are contributing to the divide, which is what's keeping us in a conquered state. So it's crazy that I wanted to do this live, and most of the people that need to be here is not here. And I bet you I know what they're doing. Probably on live chit-chatting it up, you know, doing the whole sword fight about who's the smartest. Right? I didn't always understand it, but I learned it. Women need to lead for us to really move forward and create change. Absolutely, Alicia. Absolutely. And one thing that I know from what I've seen, I haven't seen you lately, but you started bringing people together, because you got to understand something about the feminine is that she moves through compassion and nurturing. That's just how she is. She doesn't need to have children. That's just how her energy is. You understand what I'm saying? Men in general have a conquering energy. Even if they think they don't, they have a conquering energy. So they're going around trying to conquer themselves. They're trying to conquer the feminine within themselves. So they move a certain way, dress a certain way, talk a certain way, because they're trying to conquer the feminine energy within themselves first. So that also means that when they are walking through life, they're also trying to conquer in every way. They're doing it subconsciously. They're trying to conquer through conversation, through knowledge and building. They're trying to conquer in relationships, which is why they're so obsessed with women being in submission to them. So obsessed with it. Why can't you find, a divine feminine and be able to sit back and just watch her in her natural state? And not be offended by what she does. Be able to sit and be in a place of learning, of understanding what her nature is, instead of trying to dictate how she's supposed to express herself or how femininity is supposed to be expressed. Absolutely, Alicia. We do have to teach them, but that requires a lot of us coming into understanding of our own divinity, right? So this is why I'm here, right? Because we cannot place all of our mind into the hands of a man. We just cannot. I don't care how much knowledge they accrued over the years. I really don't care, because they're operating through their ego. So we have to be able to see. We have to come into sisterhood and get a big sister. If we're struggling with our own divinity, we have to be able to go to another sister and be like, I need a sister. I need some guidance. Can I ask for advice? My DMs is always open. People message me all the time. And I always do my very best to get back to people. The woman takes everything as it is. She shows the truth. The male doesn't. He overanalyzes and always wants to be first. Absolutely. Sorry, y'all. This is New York sounding. And y'all know it's getting warm, summertime. So you already know what's going to be happening in New York. What do you think of women? What do you think of women like Shira 7 who wants to gain benefits of patriarchy but worships a goddess? Is she still in patriarchal mindset? Yes, she is. Now, one thing I want to make clear, right, is that Shira 7 has her talents. She has her talents in the area that she's in, but she is someone who has learned to adapt to her oppressive environment, right? So in the oppressive environment that she's in, which is misogynistic and sexist, she has decided, okay, this is how I'm going to operate to get what it is that I need. One thing that I mentioned to you guys is that the feminine is abundant. So that means when you're dealing with a male, he is supposed to come with resources. Any time in which he does not, he was out of alignment with his divine masculine self. He's supposed to do, he's supposed to provide, he's supposed to give. That's the phallic energy, to give, right? Okay, so what she is doing is she is teaching how to operate within an oppressive system. That's what she's teaching. That's what she's doing, and I commend her for what she's doing, because that's how people operate. That's how a lot of women operated in this for many years. The only thing is, what differs her from me and many others is that I'm trying to change the system. I'm not trying to teach people to operate within it. No. I'm not talking about complacency. I'm not trying to get people to be content. I'm trying to make sure we come into our strength and we actually do something about the issue. Because I'm trying to get us to get back to our ancient ways, our ancient spiritual system, which was the feminine spiritual system. Okay, we understood the fertility of our mama, right? So this is going back to nature, because nature provides us with all that we need. That is an extension of who we are, right? It's not just our home. It's just not something for us to own or to mine or to dig up. No, that's not who we are, right? So I'm trying to break down the oppressive system and rise up our ancient spiritual system of fertility worship. Back at a time where everybody had what they needed. Nobody was in a state of lack. Nobody. So that means we have to come together. So what I'm suggesting or proposing that we do is, while there are going to be people who are aligned with us in every way, there's a lot more of us who are aligned in small and minute ways, okay? So that means, yes, we can have our tribe. Beautiful. But if we find that we disagree, it does not mean cut all ties. It means, you know what, it's fine. I may not need to speak with you directly, but have your tribal leader speak to my tribal leader, and we can keep a collaborative relationship, because it's more about the nation rather than it is about me and you. Do we understand this? Do we all agree on this? Do we all agree? Do we all understand? I just want to make sure. Type it in comments. I want to make sure the comments are working. And if you want to come up and talk, let me know. So great. All right, especially Alicia. Alicia, you have your own community, right? We have to figure out how we can collab and figure out what we can do together. Okay? One thing, I'm gonna just let you all know what it is that I'm doing so far. What I'm doing is helping people deconstruct from religion, right? So I'm taking the spiritual route of helping people come from wherever they're coming from. So if they are, right now what I've been doing is speaking to the people coming from Christianity. So I deal a lot in the Bible and what it says, what it means, this right? I'm gonna go into Muslim next, but I'm trying to help people deconstruct from the misogynistic religion that they have adopted, because a lot of people are still in the chokehold. Okay, we still have a lot of Hebrew Israelites who think that Christ is black and he's coming to take us up into the heavens. Okay, so because we think these things, there's still a lot of people who need to be taught the occult. They still need to be taught esoteric knowledge. They still need to be under the understanding of the Divine Mother. Now, again, I am in full belief that men should not be teaching the black woman is God. If you feel that way, great. But if you're teaching it, do not appoint this man as leader. Please don't. Whether it's Rashad Jamal, whether it's Brother Polite, whether it's Nature Boy, whether it's Young Pharaoh, I don't care who is saying it. I don't care who's saying it. Stop trying to make these men leaders, please. Please. Yes. Basically, what I'm doing right now is I'm speaking to everybody individually. I'm going to merge you guys into a group in a second. I'm not doing it now. I'm getting to know everybody individually. This is my assessment period. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm assessing the energy. I'm assessing how sincere you are. I'm assessing whether you can take criticism, constructive criticism. I'm assessing if your ego is going to be an obstacle or not. So I'm speaking to everybody individually. If you're in my inbox and I'm speaking to you personally, then you're a part of the fam. You're a part of the fam, right? And I'm glad that you're here, but I have yet to bring everybody together, because once I know that each and every one of you are sincere, compassionate, and you're serious, okay? Serious about what you are talking about, then I'm going to bring everybody together. And then we're going to talk collectively, because one thing that I understand is that when we're talking about diet, I'm talking about energetic diet, right? Before I start putting people together, I want to make sure I am sure about the seriousness of each individual before I start putting y'all in the group, okay? Because the energetic diet is very, very important, and people is a part of our diet just as much as food, what we watch, and what we hear. Do we understand? Hi, peace. So I have yet to put y'all together, but I'm definitely speaking to multiple people individually. So anybody who wants to connect with me, just DM me. I'm going to respond. Okay, I am going to respond. And we're going to begin talking, conversating. I'm going to get to know you. I'm going to figure out, how did you come into this this understanding that the black woman is God? What does it mean to you? How do you feel about women in leadership roles? I'm going to ask you these questions because at the end of the day, one thing that I notice that's very easy for men, right, is that as long as he agrees with what the woman is saying, he has no problem with her being in a leadership role, until the day in which he actually disagrees with what she says. Now, that's really the test. How do you handle when you disagree? That's what our issue is as a people. We have to learn how to disagree and still move forward with the bigger mission at hand. Thing is in my way. Okay? So, I invite you, those of you who are willing to do something, you have a talent, you have a skill, and you want to be a part of the mission to raise up the divine feminine to her rightful place so that we can actually create harmony on this particular planet and start healing our earth. You know what I mean? We start doing some things. Then you can hit me up, right? So far, do you guys have any questions? If not, then that'll be all I have to say for today. Because most people I wanted to address did not come. Because you know what I'm saying? They did not come because they probably sitting around, chit-chatting it up, you know, gossiping, you know, exercising, you know. There's this guy, Sunrise, he calls it Love and Hotep. Absolutely, mad drama in the conscious community for no reason. Love and Hotep. We got to get out of that part. It's funny, it's entertaining, but sometimes it's draining and it just makes y'all look unattractive. So we gotta fix it. We gotta fix it. There's a lot more that needs to be done. We have a bigger picture, something that's more important than any one individual being, and we have to get it together. We have to get it together. Ooh, Akash, we have to get it together. We have to get it together, okay? So, yes, hit me up. But until then, thank you all so much for coming to my live, and I hope you got something from it. I hope you started thinking about the proposal that I made, and, you know, you're ready for change. Hopefully. Hopefully, but thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope you all have a blessed night. And remember to worship the Yoni.